Thank you, Department. I'll have a range of questions on notice. With respect to the temporary arrangements, we've had a lot of evidence today about them not being implemented as planned, rural and regional areas that regular people would deem rural and regional, such as Tweed, being subjected to these sort of to the temporary arrangements, resulting in mail not getting delivered and Australia Post falling way behind on its obligations. Is this something the department monitors? Is this something the department monitors? If so, how? And were you aware?
Senator, we don't monitor the sort of day-to-day delivery performance of Australia Post itself. We do get information periodically from Australia Post that will go to its performance against its standards, and we do have.
Sorry, is that informal or formal?
I think we would get that in a sense, as part of our formal engagement with them in the shareholder context, which we have quarterly meetings with them, for example. But and the other, I guess the other source of information that we would have is access to what's happening in terms of complaints coming through, either directly to us, but more likely complaints that might be going through to the Postal Industry Ombudsman.
Well, can I just refer you to the evidence of the CEPU, where we've got examples of mail just stacking up and up and up. And I would have thought it would have been a little more stringent than quarterly meetings that we assure ourselves as shareholders on the standards and the community service obligations that Australia Post is subject to. So on notice, can I please have detailed information, not bureaucratese, paragraph on how... Oh, please, Sarah, come on, you know. So can I have detailed... It's all right.
Government won't fall, you know.
That's it.
The government will not fall by this question.
Is
that a word, Senator McKenzie?
They've got this one under control. Can you please give me detailed response? And if you haven't got what needs to be in place to assure ourselves that that isn't happening, or if it is that we know about it, because I take from your evidence that you didn't know about it.
Senator, that's correct.
Senator,
Okay.
we didn't. I might just add, whilst we didn't know about the evidence that had been provided today, or the information provided today, we will take on notice on what reporting we have received from Australia Post over the period in relation to the temporary arrangements.
Because it's quite disturbing.
Sorry, Senator, I might just add
yes.
Hello.
Lachlan, hi.
I might just add to what my two colleagues have said. During the term of the temporary regulatory relief, we do get monthly reports from Australia Post in a written form, and they do provide information around their performance against some of these standards.
Maybe is the department aware of the issues in undelivered mails and parcels?
No, we're not, Senator.
No, you are not.
Yep.
So
we will
can I clarify that means, Mr Patterson, that Australia Post isn't reporting appropriately of what's obviously occurring?
They're not appropriate. The reports do not show the issues that were raised this morning.
Right. I want a lot more detail. Thank you.
Just on that point, if this matter has been raised at the previous inquiry, specifically similar terms, you say you're not aware of that?
At the previous inquiry, Senator, we did raise those issues with Australia Post, and we would provide assurances that the issues that were raised in regards to mail being stored, stacked and not delivered.
Can you ask, when you said you weren't aware, that's not entirely true then. You'd have to say you were aware, but you've clarified it and you've had rebuttals.
Sorry, Senator,
isn't that more accurate?
Sorry, I meant not aware that this was an occurrence. I am aware of the accusations.
Here we go. So a lot more detail, please. With respect to the temporary regulatory environment we're operating under, what is the criteria for lifting that?
Well, the temporary regulatory, there are no criteria for it ending at the moment. The regs run until the 30th of June, and at that point, in the absence of another government decision, it will revert back to the previous regulatory arrangements.
And have you provided any advice to the Minister that would suggest that they won't be being lifted on the 30th of June?
So, Senator, we haven't provided any advice about them not being lifted, because as I say, they fall away naturally. We are certainly we are considering, as you would expect us to do, what should be the right regulatory arrangements for Australia Post. But at this point, there is no decision of government around any changes to the regulatory framework.
Have you consulted any of the stakeholders around lifting the regulatory?
So we undertook consultation of stakeholders during this 12-month period. I think, as you heard earlier, Australia Post is talking to people about what they think the right regulatory arrangements should be or might be from taking, that could take effect from 30 June. We haven't formally gone and consulted anyone on that question.
Okay, thank you. BCG review seems to have been put in the bottom drawer and hasn't done anything that it was supposed to do in terms of informing the strategic direction of Australia Post for its 2023 corporate plan. They're now turning to McKenzie. What were the terms of reference for the McKenzie piece of work?
Senator, I'm not sure what the terms of reference for the McKenzie piece of work are.
So that's an Australia Post only?
Commissioned by Australia Post.
Whereas the BCG was commissioned by the stakeholder ministers?
That's correct.
Yep. Was the...
So what's sorry.
No, you go.
What's the status of the BCG report then?
So the BCG report remains a document that is subject to government consideration. It's fair to say that the moment the BCG report was, very soon after the BCG report was completed, when the pandemic commenced, and that certainly has changed the operating environment, possibly permanently, but certainly temporarily. And so the BCG report remains a source of information and advice to government for government's consideration.
Mm-hmm. So it hasn't been rejected?
I think it's been neither accepted nor rejected, Senator. That's correct.
Thank you. Senator McKenzie.
I should add that it doesn't actually have a thing to accept. It's got a variety of
options.
Snap.
Options. It was very snappy. Ms Holgate said that Australia Post executive team pushed back on the need and ability to cut back services and jobs as one of the options within the BCG report. Can the department confirm that it just wasn't Ms Holgate that had options with selling off the parcel divisions or privatising certain aspects of and divisions of Australia Post?
Senator, I don't think... in the context of the work done by BCG, I don't think, and without wanting to talk about the report in detail because it's clearly still subject to a public interest immunity claim, the process didn't have a discussion about privatisation of parcels business in that form. So I don't think I can quite answer the question as to who pushed back on what.
What role then does the BCG report have in informing the development of the 2023 corporate plan as envisaged by shareholder ministers? So
I think it was obviously a recent piece of work that could have been taken into consideration, but that last corporate plan for Australia Post was, I suppose, in a way, the way to put it was disrupted because of the advent of the pandemic. And as you know, as a consequence, even the timetables for producing and finalising corporate plans were adjusted to take into account the pandemic. So I think whatever was envisaged for the role the BCG report might have played in that corporate plan, that was somewhat overtaken by the events that were in front of the organisation at the time.
The decision by Australia Post to stop allowing the postage of perishable goods, did the department provide any advice or was involved in any discussions with Australia Post around that decision?
No, Senator, we were not.
Okay, I'm done.